Today we are in San Francisco in the CrowdFlower office. Hi Lukas, who are you and what do you do?
I'm the founder and CEO of CrowdFlower, and we help data scientists enrich their data. So we make it easy to turn your messy data into clean, enriched, complete data. And that's really useful for data scientists because they have to analyze that data or build models.
How did you come up with the idea of CrowdFlower?
Well, it's actually really simple. I was working as a data scientist, and so I always felt that the most important part of the process was the collecting and cleaning of the data.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it was my least favorite part of the job, but I really wanted to do good analysis and build good models, and so I got really interested in building tools to help clean up data, and I found that they were very useful, and then I thought this would be useful for other people, so I built a company around helping people clean up their data.
Great. Can you walk us through the process once you've started the company, maybe the first 3 months or so? What was it like starting the company?
It was really hard. It was a different time. We're a little older than a lot of the startups, so I remember Y Combinator it wasn't so clear that was a really important thing, and there was a lot less resources.
Mm-hmm.
For tech entrepreneurs. There wasn't AngelList. AngelList was literally an email list,
Yeah.
where they would email your company out and people would decide to invest or not. And so it's really kind of shocking when you go from having a job to starting a company because you have no infrastructure around you to help you. I actually remember we closed our first deal and we needed to receive and then a fax and then print it and then send the fax back, and so our customer was asking, hey, what's your fax number? Yeah. And I remember we got on our bikes and went to Best Buy, which is a store in America, and we literally got a big box, and me and my co-founder carried it back and we plugged it in and we said, okay, send us the fax now. So there's no infrastructure, and also you're not getting a paycheck, which was really scary. I think my parents were concerned that maybe I was unemployed, and yeah, it was super hard. I mean, I think it was actually a lot harder than I was expecting. And sales are hard. It's kind of I was really used to building products and having everything else around me taken care of, and I think I didn't realize how much work goes into doing finances, doing marketing, doing sales, all those things.
Cool. And how long did it take for you to get the first financing and the first customer?
The first customer happened pretty early because we really needed money. So we probably sold the product long before it was ready. I think if we had more access to capital, we might have waited longer. It took us, I think, maybe 18 months before we raised any financing. I think, again, back then, raising seed rounds was really, really hard. There's a lot less interest in doing seed investments. And I remember, people would laugh at me you have no business plan, you don't have enough customers, there's no way we're going to invest in you. And I think times have changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the business model of CrowdFlower.
Sure.
So did this business model change over time?
Yeah, it actually changed a lot over time. So when we started, the way CrowdFlower works is you set up the data cleanup project that you want, and we have crowd in our name. So we use a workforce to go into the jobs and clean them up. So say I'm eBay and I'm a data scientist at eBay and I want to know if a search result is good or bad. So that's something that data scientists in eBay are really interested in, because if you search for iPhone and you get a result that's a car with an iPhone adapter in it, that's a really bad result and you don't buy anything, right? So eBay sends they basically write down, here's my rules, here's what it means for a result to be relevant, here's what it means for a result to be not relevant, and then here's a big list of search queries and search results, and I want the crowd to tell me which ones are relevant and not relevant. So they set all that up in our software, and then the crowd does some of the labeling, and then we use machine learning to do even more labeling.
Right.
And so, in the early days in the company, we basically operated as a managed service. So you would tell us what you wanted and tell us your requirements, and then we would operate the software to get the results for you. And so we charged per result, and we would price differently based on the types of applications. Mm-hmm. We've totally switched our model to now if you're eBay and you want these results, you go into our platform, you set everything up, and the platform does all the management. And so we've gone from a managed service model where we price per task and we would take a fixed percentage to now you pay for our platform license, and then you can use our platform as much as you need to. So we operate as a SaaS software company now. That's our business model as opposed to a managed service.
And the example of eBay sounds to me more like that you wanted to have this feedback cycle from customers for calibrating the model. And in the beginning you said you help the data scientist to clean its data, which is different for this. Can you give us an example for this as well?
Clean and collect. So
okay.
So that's why we say enrich.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the best word we can think of that means clean and collect,
yeah.
and and so cleaning is often business data. Mm-hmm. So we work with data scientists at Autodesk, for example, and they have a huge list of customers, and they want to do analytics on their customer base, but a lot of times they have duplicate customers in there. Mm-hmm. And it's even complicated, right? Like, is YouTube and Google, is that the same company? It kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And so they send us a big list of customers, and then we clean up the records. So we say, okay, these two records are the same, or we might say, this record is miscategorized. This company isn't really a tech company; they're more a media company. Or we might say, this address looks like it's wrong, or this phone number looks like it's wrong. That type of thing.
Cool. I mean, when we are talking about enrichment, you need to get the enrichment done right. How do you acquire the people that are working and helping data scientists in enriching the data?
Well, we post the tasks online, and we, in some cases, pay people directly to do the tasks. And in other cases, we've partnered with companies that have big workforces. Mm-hmm. So we've made deals with companies around the world where we can post tasks on their websites and pay people for doing jobs.
And how do you control the quality of the work? For example, if I'm a data scientist and I have like tons of data, I need to be sure that the quality or the quality assurance I get from you is high, because else all the analysis or algorithms I'm building are
totally
worthless.
Wrong. Yeah, exactly. Our software does it in many different ways. So one really simple way, simple but effective, is our customers can hide in questions where they know what the answer is. Mm-hmm. So they can do some of the labeling themselves. They could say, okay, this business and this business are actually the same. And if somebody gets that wrong, then they didn't understand my instructions. Mm-hmm. And so that's the simplest way. You can label those, and then we use that as like a test when people come in. We also look at we will sometimes ask the same people. We'll ask different people the same question, and we expect them to agree, and if they don't, then we worry about them. And then we also have people look at other people's results and say if they're good or bad. But our software platform manages all this. So our customer goes in and they just write down what they want, and then our platform takes care of controlling all the quality and building different types of tasks that you need to make sure the results are good.
But as I understand, those people are only enriching the data and not modeling features or something like that.
Just enriching the data. Mm-hmm. Another cool thing that our software does is it watches the people label the data, and it actually builds an algorithm that predicts what people are going to do for the labels. So, in some cases, our machine learning software can figure out, without even going to a human being, what the right label should be.
And the people who are working on enriching the data, are they doing this full-time, or are this just a hobby of them?
Typically part-time.
So this means basically only when I have some kind of job to solve, which is bigger, I can hire a flexible workforce via CrowdFlower.
Exactly, yeah.
And how did you acquire the first customers?
It was hard. It was really hard. We saw the market need, and we basically asked, all our friends, like, hey, do you know anyone that needs this kind of data cleanup? Yeah. luckily we were able to get to some people that were willing to try us. And we took good care of the early customers. We gave them a really good deal. Yeah. And some of them are still with us. So LinkedIn was very, very early using us. I remember there was a guy, DJ Patel did our first deal, and now he's become a very famous data scientist. He literally signed the first contract, and
cool.
Yeah. In fact, actually, one of our very early customers became a angel investor. Mm-hmm. Actually, two. So it's really interesting. We one of our early customers, Gary Kremen, was the founder of Match.com, mm-hmm. and he used us and invested. And then Travis Kalanick, who's actually now he's the CEO of Uber. Mm-hmm. But at the time he was actually really just an engineer working on data problems, and he was a very early user of our platform. I remember he called in and then he wanted to meet in person, and he actually he angel invested in CrowdFlower too, and was one of the early people that helped us long before Uber, actually.
So, and when you entered the market, did you really only provide a high discount, or did you say, here, try this for free, and if you love it, we can provide you more with a decent pricing?
We never offered it for free, because the problem is, I think free is a little too easy for people. So, we felt like, hey, you need to pay something so that we know that you actually care about the results and you're not really just doing this as a favor for us.
Currently, are you using any distribution partners, or are you having only a direct sales force? Is it more outbound, inbound sales?
Yeah, we're mainly direct sales. Our leads mainly come from inbound sources. Mm-hmm. I think one of the advantages that we have is we really sell to data scientists. And I don't think a lot of companies have figured out how to reach data scientists well. I mean, I think Kaggle has done a really good job, mm-hmm. and some others. But because we have a really narrow focus on a really specific kind of customer, mm-hmm. We find that inbound works pretty well. So we just try to make stuff that data scientists are going to be interested in. We put out data. It's what data scientists like. So, we will post data sets that we think are interesting or useful. We will, kind of survey the data science industry. We actually just ran a conference last week for data scientists, and I think it was very successful because it was so specific. Mm-hmm. We love data scientists. I was a data scientist, and so it's easy for us to talk to them. I think we'll probably start doing more outbound, mm-hmm. but I think that mostly people. In my experience, I think inbound it's harder to scale in a way, mm-hmm. But it is. I think it's more and more the way people want to be sold to. So I really believe in content marketing, for example. Mm-hmm. I think it's like, hey, create great content that's interesting. Everybody wins. Like people can come to our website and they can learn about the state of the data science industry, and that's useful for them, and then optionally they can take a look at CrowdFlower. And we don't force you to put in your email address or anything like that. We just we just make the content available, and then if people are interested and they want to collect data, then they can try that.
What is your competitive advantage over other platforms where you can also have crowdsourcers working for you?
I think the simple answer is quality. Mm-hmm. So we're the biggest platform in terms of volume. The only one that's close in terms of volume is called Mechanical Turk. Mm. Maybe you've heard of it. Yeah. So they have an advantage because they don't charge any fee to use their marketplace. So they have a very low barrier to entry. But my experience is that the quality is often very bad, or at least uneven. Mm-hmm. And so what we try to do is make sure that the quality is really good. So I think that we are the highest quality data cleanup provider out there.
And is the reason for this that you have the kind of mechanics in place, or that you have a higher qualified workforce?
Well, one is that our software is better. So we're really, really focused on data cleanup for data scientists. So that means that our software is very specific for our applications. So we have really good templates that work really well for the types of things data scientists want to do. We have really good accuracy measurements and sophisticated tools that, is not for everyone. It's for people that are, really care about data quality and really want to dig in and make sure they get good results. And what that means on the what we call the contributor side of the marketplace is people know that they're being measured and they believe they're being treated fairly. And so when we see someone do good work for us for a long time, we give them access to more and more work, which is really what they want. And so that means that the people that have been in our system a long time, you can really trust because they've proven over and over they can do high quality work and they like coming back every day. And so so I think better software and better marketplace means that when customers use us, they get high quality results.
Imagine I'm a data scientist and I have several jobs to do. I have some kind of one-time analysis to do. I have maybe some kind of predictive analytics algorithms that I want to build. Are you only focusing on the first one, which is some kind of snapshot analysis, pattern analysis, and doing the data enrichment for this? Or do you also have kind of maintenance data enrichment for live products?
Yeah, we love to do maintenance data enrichment for live products. So we actually have tools to help with that. So if you want to, you can use CrowdFlower's machine learning tools to continuously label your data. And you can even set things up so that you send it to the machine learning first. And if the machine learning is confident in its answer, you get that back. And if it's not confident, it gets labeled. Yeah. And then those labels get fed back into the algorithm as training data. And so you can use our tools, or a lot of our customers are really advanced data scientists. They choose to use their own tools, their own custom stuff, and that's great too. So I think we're actually especially strong in predictive analytics because it requires so much training data. I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize outside the industry about predictive analytics is the best way to make your models effective is give it lots and lots of training data. Right. So we that's a great market for us, and we love to help people with that.
Imagine I'm a marketplace or so, and I would have a job for you and say, okay, we have 1 million search results, so to speak. And how much would it cost to label the search results on those 1 million search lists?
Well, it really depends on a lot of things that you can set, right? So there's kind of a cost, quality, and speed trade-off. So if you're very price sensitive, you just want to get it done as cheap as possible, and you're willing to wait, you can post a job at a really low price and just kind of wait until it finishes. Yeah. If you really want to get results back fast, or you want really high quality results, then you're going to have to pay a lot to get those results back. But we actually don't mind any of these strategies, right? So, we make our money off of giving you the platform and selling you license for that, and then you can pick your trade-offs. Okay. So we have a wide range of templates that you can use to get those results back. So, we'll have simple templates that, might cost, if it takes a few seconds, maybe it only costs you a few cents to say if it's a relevant result or not. But if you have, a complicated taxonomy, kind of complicated rules, or if you want to only target our best contributors, then you might have to pay $1 per record or something like that. So.
And is this auction based? So imagine I would put in a job with a description and then say, okay, people can bid, or I can set a price. How does it work?
The way our software works today is you set the price, and then people can choose to do it or not.
Okay. Let's talk about your learnings. So over the last years, what have been the major learnings from your side?
That's a good question. One thing that's really served us that we didn't do in the beginning, that I wish we had done earlier, is focus on one particular kind of customer. So, a lot of people say to do that, right? But I think for, a lot of entrepreneurs that come out with a really new tool, like a really new approach, a new kind of thing, you can get lots of different people that are interested in using it. So when we first launched CrowdFlower, we had many different kinds of people. People were like, whoa, this is a cool tool for surveys. Like I can do site usability testing with this. What are all the amazing things I can do with it? And what that does is it feels good because it feels like, okay, I have all these options, but it makes it impossible to do marketing. And so it was a really scary, hard decision for us to say, hey, we're really going to focus on data science. It's actually really difficult, and I think a lot of the team was worried because, data scientists were less than a quarter of our customer base.
Yeah, right.
But I felt that the data scientists were the happiest customers. Mm-hmm. And so, I knew that if we really focused on them, we'd be able to grow that market. And I also think that, I think one of the skills as an entrepreneur is to say, not just like how are things now, but how could things change, right? So, back in 2012, it looked like the data science market was really small. Mm-hmm. And so, some of our investors, some of the management was like, this is too small. We can't only focus on this market. But, I think if you looked at the trends, if you were in it, you were thinking, wow, this market's going to grow a lot. Yeah. And so I think like having some patience of like, look, we're going to focus on this now because it's going to set us up for success later, helped make a good decision. And I think it's one of the best decisions that we ever made. And I think that, in retrospect, it looks like a really obvious decision, but actually at the time it was really not obvious. And, we actually had some executives leave because they weren't on board with the decision. It seemed too risky.
What other lessons did you learn over the years?
I think another underrated piece of running a business, and I've actually seen this in a lot of my friends' companies too, is it's really important to really like your customers. I mean, and I think like everyone would kind of like say, yeah, like that's true, and I've always like, liked our customers, but in a way in a lot of ways your customers is your most important constituent. And I think that as a founder, you really want to like the people that you serve, and I think one of the things that's made running this company really fun is I really like data scientists. When I go to a data science conference, I'm really just interested. I love hearing like what they're up to, and I don't always feel that at I feel much more comfortable hanging out with the data scientists than often the like C-level executives at the companies that we're in, and find like their problems much more interesting than like managing 1,000-person team. And so I think that there's definitely an effective strategy with a business that's similar to ours, where you go into the top and you target the C-suite. But I think for us, the strategy that works for us as a business and our DNA is really serving the data scientists and making them successful. And so I see that in a lot of people that have gotten frustrated. Sometimes people go into a business thinking they're going to serve one market that they really like, and then they end up serving a different market. And sometimes it works great, but I think often it fails because they actually don't like that, that market. Like I have friends that sell into HR, and some of them love it. Like some of them love going to HR conferences, and it's like so fun, And then I have other friends that have discovered that, hey, HR is a great place to sell into, but I actually don't like these people that much. Yeah. And I think that you cannot succeed if you don't really enjoy your customers. So I think it's something to think about. Like when I look at people and they ask me like, hey, I want to start a company. I think one way of looking at it is working backwards from, who do you want to serve, right? Because then it's like really simple. It's like, okay, you want to like, who do you like? Right? Like I mean, maybe for you as entrepreneurs, right? I feel that you really like entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. Then you kind of can start with that and say, okay, I like entrepreneurs. Like what do they really want? And I think like backing into it like that is like a real recipe for success, because you're going to make something people want. It's going to be fun because like if you're running a company, you spend so much of your time with customers. Right. So that's going to be like most of your life, so you might as well enjoy it.
Lukas, let's talk about the growth options, because you described that when the data science market was still small, you said, okay, I bet on that the market will grow, therefore I will position myself as a data enrichment provider. But at some point, the market is saturated with this kind of service. What other growth options do you perceive for your company?
Well, I would say we're far from selling to every data scientist in the world, and so, I think that we're going to grow with that for a good long time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I kind of hesitate to, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking there's like so many cool things to try, but I don't even ever bring that up because I'm just like, look, like we need to focus on saturating the data science market before we start to worry about expansion opportunities. Mm-hmm. I even think that there's ways to serve our market better so that we can actually increase the value that we're making for our customers, beyond just what we're doing today, right? So I think like, you look at our average sales price today, I think that can actually go up a lot in a way that everyone feels good about because we can make our software more useful and sell more modules and things like that to our customer base. So I guess for me, in my situation, I look more at how do we make sure that we're serving every data, how do we actually saturate the market because we haven't yet, and then how do we expand within the market that we're in. Because, for example, we launched our AI module recently, and it was a really interesting experience for me because it was the biggest launch that we'd had since we launched CrowdFlower. And so the original CrowdFlower did not have a machine learning piece. Every record that you got back was done by the crowd. Mm-hmm. And so recently we launched a thing where it's okay, now you can have it done by an artificial intelligence module, right? And when we were first building CrowdFlower, I think the hardest thing as an entrepreneur is to get feedback on what you're doing because people are busy, and if they're not using it, then it's really hard to get people's attention. And I think these books like Lean Startup and 4 Steps to Epiphany are excellent, right? And they tell you, hey, run everything by customers, right, before you make it. But that's easier said than done, right? Because you can't just call up a potential user and they take your phone call, right? I mean, you really have to hustle to get in front of them. So it's really interesting actually building this kind of second module for our data scientists to do data enrichment because we actually had hundreds of people that every day are logging into CrowdFlower and they're trying to enrich their data using the tool. And so I was like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, we build this machine learning tool. Do you have any feedback on it? And of course they have tons of feedback, right? Because they're so excited that we're going to make the tool even more useful for them. So it's actually a much faster customer development process that we were able to run because we had this existing customer base that was all trying to do the same thing.
Just for clarification, so that the new AI model basically tries to do what the humans have been done based on machine learning, meaning that the data enrichment is done by an algorithm, which improves over time.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And the feedback loop is then done by your customers, so the data scientists, or is it done also by the crowd?
The feedback loop is done by the crowd, in the sense of if the data scientist is kind of controlling everything. So the data scientist might say, if the model is under 90% confident in the answer, I want a human to actually look at it. But then we automatically feed that back in the algorithm so it can get smarter. And because maybe it's 85% confident, then we get a human to label it, then the algorithm can see, hey, was I right? In which case maybe it gets a little more confident in itself, or maybe I'm wrong, in which case I get a little less confident and sort of retrain my parameters.
Okay, cool. And thereby you can reduce the cost for data enrichment because then you only can focus on the last 10%.
Exactly, yeah, okay. Good question, that means I explained it well.
Good stuff. Lukas, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And if you are a data scientist, data is the key for building some really awesome data products. And if you want to enrich your data and have this done fast and maybe by others, and you want to focus on the cool machine learning stuff, then maybe you should think about CrowdFlower. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.